I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has provided access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. This month's episode is titled Pathways to Human Services Job Shadow Program. From a preliminary conversation that took place during the networking portion of a Franklin Grand Isle Community Partnership meeting during October of 2017, in which Jim Naylor mentioned new teacher Jennifer Conrad's vision for a human services program at BFA's Northwest Technical Center, we're here today to discuss the tremendous strides that the program has taken in partnership with NCSS under Stacy Remelard's leadership. To discuss the Pathways to Human Services Job Shadow Program, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests: Jennifer Conrad, Human Services Teacher at Northwest Technical Center, Stacy Remelard, NCSS Director of Human Resources, and a program participant, Sydney Bergeron. I'd like to welcome all of you to the program this month.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
So let's start with Stacy, if you can just give us an overview about the program, the purpose, the development of it, and the partnership that's been born here.
Sure, I'd love to. Really, we started the initiative, like you said. Jen was new. We at NCSS were interested in helping students find pathways into human services. And part of that was to provide experiences and hopefully eventually lead to some employment opportunities in addition to just the student experience, the exposure. But, really a way to raise greater awareness about human services, about the careers in our field, what NCSS does, and others like us throughout the state of Vermont, actually. I'm sure it's not a secret that there is a statewide shortage when it comes to the workforce for human services. So for me, this was a great opportunity to give back to the community, partner with the community, school, the tech center, BFA, really develop that relationship to give the students what they need so they can make some choices after high school, whether it's to go on to college, get a job, whatever that looks like.
Sure.
And then second to that would be to maybe turn around and have those students come back to me in an employment relationship down the road. So I think that we're really just trying to work towards a commitment to the economic health of our state, and this was just one way to do that.
And Jennifer, is there anything you'd like from your perspective on
Just to add to that early on, Stacy and I talked about what types of trainings and certifications that we could offer to high school students and make them more aware, like you said, the vast careers that are in human services. And so we offer an opportunity to have a career panel, and the students that are in my first year of the program have the opportunity to learn more about those pathways. And then in the second year of the program, then they have opportunities for certifications. So I'm working in the youth and mental health training,
Mental health, first aid.
Yep. And then giving internship experiences. And that's why I'm so excited Sydney's here today to talk a little more about that.
Yeah, that was definitely the big part, was to have students come into our facilities and develop, develop some opportunities to really be exposed to the variety of programs, populations, just the things that we do at NCSS and in the field of human services in general. We have to have people in our offices answering telephones, whether it's working at a front desk or it's processing billing or human resources. There's not only, you don't have to be a social worker or a therapist, though that is generally what people want to do, but there's lots of opportunity within the field. So that was part of it as well, just to expand upon those opportunities.
And Stacy, you know, better than anyone. I mean, NCSS is so diverse in the programming that we offer the community, and I think that's one of the things that hopefully students opens their eyes, that when you look at human services, it isn't like you're looking through a small little hole. It's very, very broad, and the variety of services that are required from the youngest of our population all the way up to the eldest, and everything in between. It's astounding, actually, when you think about it. So with that being said, Sydney, why did you choose NCSS for your placement?
Well, when Miss Conrad first came, she asked us if we had anywhere specific we wanted to go for placement. And I knew somewhat that I wanted to become maybe a counselor or social worker. So I asked her, is there any way that I could join NCSS for a couple of weeks to go there? Because we never had the opportunity. We usually went to just classrooms and elderly homes. So being able to go here was just something I really wanted to try out and see if it was something I wanted to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why we thought about the collaboration early, was from the student interest, and trying to look at ways to give them those experiences and open their eyes to all of those careers.
And Sydney was actually our first placement.
She was.
So
Very
she was a
first.
little bit of the
Yeah.
guinea pig.
Yeah,
She
she
was
really
the guinea
was.
pig,
She was.
We learned from her as well.
You did.
It's like they always say as well. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we can read books, we can do all that, watch videos, do all that sort of thing. But there's nothing like actually experiencing whatever it is that you're interested in and seeing how that really functions.
Yeah, you can talk to people and ask them about it, but you never really experience it until you go out and do it.
Especially in high school, thinking about them having that opportunity in that senior year before making some big changes in their life,
Sure,
whether it's
yeah.
going on to college or a workplace, to get that experience gives them some advantage.
Yeah, it
and
helps
that's
a lot to
that's
make
what
the
the tech,
decision.
the tech center is all about.
Yeah.
Is trying to give kids an advantage.
Yes. So, Sydney, what did you learn about human services and social work and NCSS during your time that you were with NCSS?
Well, like you said before, it's a variety of different things that you could do. So in human service, the teaching was a big part of it, or social work. So being able to learn about all of it was just amazing to do in my senior year of high school. And I've also just learned that it's very close. It impacts a lot of people, being a social worker or human services worker. Nobody really realizes that until you are there in their shoes. I didn't personally get to go that deep into it, but just being able to get somewhat into it and learn that it's very hard and just long time to get through, and it's just an experience.
And speaking about experience, what about the experience during your time there impacted you the most?
I think being able to work with kids and adults directly just impacted me so much. I worked with one kid, and he was just an amazing little boy. He just taught me a lot about this type of field and what these adults are trying to do to help him, and being able to work with him during that was just great. The people I was working with, they let me do paperwork for them, which might not seem like fun, but it actually was very it's
Services,
very
actually.
important
It's
to learn. You don't
important.
know how much paperwork they really have to do until you're helping them with it, and getting just to learn everything and be in their footsteps is just something I can't forget.
I think early on, Stacy, that's what you and I talked about, that in the past, high school has offered the opportunity to maybe job shadow or maybe have a shorter experience, and that in college you typically do have a longer experience, and that's really what we were trying to work towards. Could we come up with a
An
model
internship type program.
Yeah.
for high schoolers that would give
Yeah.
a student like Sydney that taste of what it could look like, or inspire her to maybe go on and, like you said, maybe pursue this field, because we are in desperate need of more employees in this field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, was that placement helpful for you in planning for your next step, which I know you're in your next step,
Yeah.
but if you can share that, that would be.
I will be attending Keene State College next fall, and I am going to pursue psychology to become either a counselor, therapist, or try to go in the social work field. I'm thinking once I get there, I'll go further into it. But I'm just starting this year in the psychology field. Last semester and last school year, I went to Marymount University and I pursued education instead. And I love working with children. That's why I want to keep in the human services field. But I'm thinking more of the counseling route just because of my experience in the education field just wasn't the right fit for me. But as I was working with NCSS, I realized that it was just something I wanted to look forward in and just see if it'll work out for me.
You know,
I have a feeling it will.
Yes,
I have a good feeling.
and you bring up a good point, which is, you know, the path that someone takes isn't always defined right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You know, you experiment, you try this,
Yeah.
you try that, and you learn that something. I mean, how many individuals you'll meet over your lifetime, many that I have met who went to school for and got a degree
Yeah.
in one area, and then when you look at what they're doing as far as what they're doing in their livelihood, it could be completely different.
Yeah.
So they made a huge shift from maybe initially what they graduated as
Yeah.
and what they're currently doing in their, you know, in their work environment.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say one of the other things we've done as part of this program is actually a panel which describes a little bit of what you're talking about, Joe, and what Sydney just said. The panel presentation is the whole human services class comes up and listens to, I had like 5 guests, I guess it was, and they all are doing something different within human services at NCSS. They're all employees. And each one of them gets to talk about their path that they took, meaning that there's not always the one direct path or the right path. And you might find that you don't like what you're doing, and that takes you to a different path. So basically kind of opening those doors and finding your way. So that actually felt, I think, valuable as well to students. At least I mean, Jennifer was there too. She could certainly add on. But you got students sitting in the room realizing that they don't have to know exactly what they want right now, but one step in a direction may actually lead them down a path that they might enjoy.
I think that's what's great about the Northwest Technical Center, that in the Human Services program, it is so broad, and that's what we want students to know and understand about this field, that it could take you in many different directions, and that's part of the excitement of working in this
It's the
field.
learning.
Yeah.
And that, you know, just really trying to build off of that experience at a younger age in high school, to have the chance to be able to know what some of those opportunities are. That's really the goal of the Tech Center.
Yeah.
So
And I think to that point, by engaging students at that point, you know, high school, junior and senior year, very impressionable years, lots ahead of them, a future ahead of them.
Right.
Engaging them in something like human services, I think that's just where you're going to be successful, and you'll be able to make better choices for your next step as a student. You educate them.
Yeah.
Sydney, you mentioned something, and I think it's really important, paperwork.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always say to staff, you know, none of them got in the business to do paperwork.
Yeah.
You know, because they really want to deal with other humans and
Yeah.
they want to help people.
Yep.
I mean, that's what really the passion is to help someone. But it's interesting that the paperwork is in alignment with that, though, because you want to make sure the paperwork's done and accurate so that
Yeah.
you can continue to help someone.
Yeah.
You know, because think about, like, from a medical standpoint, if someone felt they're going to take care of someone's broken leg or whatever, but they're not going to really document. Maybe they're struggling or, but they're not going to document any of that. Well, then what would happen down the road is that somebody else would look at the chart and they wouldn't have all the information,
Right.
might make a wrong decision. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is the fact that paperwork is just part of the process to make sure and to ensure that that person gets the help that they need.
Right. I remember working with the kid that I was talking about earlier, and the adult that was working with him was always just writing just things about him, what he was doing, how he reacted to things. And it's just important to write down so that when somebody else works with this kid, they know who he is, what he does during certain points, and they can just work with it and work through it and then help the kid out. It's all to help the kid. It's not,
Right.
yeah.
Work.
Right. Yeah, it's all for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Clinical care, good clinical care.
Clinical care. And I think it's too about giving high school students the opportunity to build those what we call in the tech center soft skills, but are those work habits that we want to see in this profession. Being able to be strong communicators, and to give them opportunities to really see mentors doing that, because lots of the job is paperwork or not just the interaction
Yeah.
between the client or the people that you're working with. So I think that's an important part to think about, that we want them to see the professional skills that are needed in the field.
Which are going to be needed after they graduate in their field as
Right.
well to be employed.
Right.
And you brought up a term, critical term, soft skills, and especially in today's world, I think, more than, it's always been important in the workplace that people need to be able to communicate, work together on teams, all that sort of thing. But I think in today's world, even more so because of the terrific thing that we have called technology,
Right.
it tends to take some people away from communicating like we are as often or as much as they used to. And sometimes it affects their ability to be able to have those soft skills and to be able to have those conversations and that sort of thing. So I think that's important that you brought that up, and that is an important aspect of what you're trying to do through the Technical Center as well.
Right. The students also create a portfolio, so they document those experiences. And Stacy and I talked a lot about how that, when you first saw the portfolio, that was an impressive piece for a student in high school to already be thinking about how to document the things that they're learning and how their professional skills that they already have was impressive. And
Yeah, and actually, sort of the way we started the program was bringing the students in for what I would call an interview. And that was bringing the portfolio with you, talking about what you have done, certifications you've earned, and so on. So it really sort of feels like a job also, right out of the gate. It's really just about building the students' skills so that they can be successful. That is the whole goal, of the program, I think.
So Sydney, at this point, you sort of have made a decision about the path or direction that you want to take. Not to say that it has to be the final one, but at this point, you're pretty certain.
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be in the human services field. I knew from my freshman year, really, and I knew I wanted to take the human services class my junior and senior year. And then I did, and it just really fully just made me decide between the two, education or the psychology route, because just being able to go out to those fields just was something not a lot of high schoolers get to do. And as I was at my school, I would talk to people. I would be like, did you get to go out to classrooms? And a lot of people said no. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just felt more, it was good to know that I got more ahead and was able to learn a lot more. And then talking to my teachers, they would ask me questions and I would know, because I got to have this opportunity to go out and be a part of my community and join NCSS and join some classrooms. And it's just really helped me shape what I wanted to do.
And
We've
one of
had
the-
about 5 students through the program right now. We're real hopeful that that's going to continue and we can continue to expand.
we do
Because
have
it's-
many interested. And like you said, this year we had a student actually in your accounting department
Yes.
that was a program student. So
Yes.
very interested in working with in this field, but wanting to also be a business major and to look at how that impacts. So it was exciting to go in directions that we didn't even think about.
Right. Yeah.
That because there are so many employees at NCSS and
Yes, there are.
departments, and
Yeah.
so I
Yeah,
hope
I agree. That was unique for us as well, but we were excited about it, and our
Yes,
accounting team was very excited about it.
Absolutely.
It was like, sure, we'd love to teach people how to do things and just expose them. I think that's the big thing for me is just the more you're exposed to, the more opportunities will present themselves. And building relationships is a big part of that. So I think that's also something that the students are getting out of this.
we have a lot of students who still are interested in early education. Traditionally, I think the Human Services program looked more at the early ed piece, but our collaboration has really opened up. I know that there were several of my first year students after the career panel were like, oh, that's really what I want to do. Now I'm understanding that it's not just in a classroom, that there are lots of positions in early education.
Yeah, and I mean, we have early education programs as well.
Right.
So I think the tech center, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but that was like there's the daycare on site. They're focusing
Right.
in that way, and
Preschool, yeah.
preschools, and
Right.
the classroom stuff, where we have a school, SOAR Learning Center. So early education doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't belong in human services. It's just another piece of what
Right.
we do. So lots of opportunity.
Yeah, broadening out their view of what that career could look like.
And I think when you think about human services, people tend to narrow in, like it needs to be this teeny pinpoint silo, and it's not. It's exactly what you just said. We're all humans, and we all need services of some kind, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, educational. It's the whole human.
Right,
A
right.
holistic approach.
Right, holistic
Right.
approach.
I'm constantly trying to inform people about what human services means, and I think you just said it perfectly. Like that should be my logo now.
You can have it. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
So Stacy, you mentioned SOAR Learning Center, and Sydney, actually, you had the opportunity. You were actually at a variety of our sites during your
Yes.
time, weren't you? And that
Yeah.
was one of them, I believe.
Yeah, it was. I got to go to 3 different ones. I got to work with adults, children, and the paperwork again. I got to just do that one of the days. And being able to go to the 3 different sites really helped me decide on that I wanted to work with the younger. Just like it wasn't a bad experience, it just helped me figure out that I work better with the younger kids than I do with the adults. But getting to be able to work with the adults was just an amazing experience. I got to see just like a different point of view, like what they were going through. They talked to me about everything, and I just got to interact with all of them. And it was fun, and I just learned so much from it.
That's terrific. So what do we think the future looks like here as we go forward?
It's exciting.
endless.
It's very exciting. Yeah. Hopefully it's endless. I know for me, Jen and I have talked a little bit about. Well, let me back up and say, we've been learning over the last 2 years and what's working, what's not working. And so we've talked about what would be maybe a better way for placements to really get the kids the optimal exposure. Sydney went to a couple of different spots. This last time we tried rotating schedules. All of them work, but the learning really happens if you can spend more quality time in one site. So we've talked about maybe doing like a 4-week at one site and then alternating sites, another 4 weeks. So just more time, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Second to that, we've talked about full year internships. I know she has some students that are interested in going full year. So, that could be a possibility for the future too. Those are 2 things I can think of.
Right. And the Tech Center just can't thank NCSS enough for opening those doors. The staff at all of the sites have been great about welcoming the students and working with them and giving them that opportunity to be involved in a hands-on way. I know that it is extra work to have another person there and working, so we really appreciate that. And just sitting and listening to Sydney again, that is one of the ways that you can learn the best.
Yes.
And that's what the Tech Center, the Northwest Tech Center, is all about.
Yep.
Is giving those hands-on, rich learning experiences to students in high school.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's been great for us too. And I've talked with everybody. We've got quite a number of people now involved in the job shadows between the sites and the panel, and everybody just very much enjoys doing it and has had a good time. The students have been a nice breath of fresh air.
Good.
They offer bring with them new perspectives, so it's nice. It's very nice.
That's great.
It's gone well.
Sydney, what surprised you the most about your venture with NCSS? Was there something that sticks out that you didn't anticipate that?
Well, one, the paperwork.
Well, that keeps
That
coming
will
up.
always.
That's funny.
I think that might have sat in your head.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think also the working with the adults, it was just a different experience that I wasn't really expecting. Just like walking in, they were all just, hi, like they were just very nice. And when I remember walking in, they're like, sometimes they get like mad with new people, and they were just the friendliest people I've ever met. And being able to get right into things, that surprised me. I know like at the beginning I had to do some trainings, but then right after that first week I just got to go straight into it and work with people by myself, and I loved it, but it just surprised me. I was like, this is just a great experience. I never expected it to happen, and because of that, it helped me move on to college and want to study this, and it's just that surprise just led me to the rest of my life.
Well, and I think it speaks a lot about you as a student and why we know you're going to be successful in this field, that you
Absolutely.
were open to that
Yeah.
and you were ready for it. And I think a lot of high school students are really seeking those opportunities to be in experiences that are hands-on. And so I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that that was so meaningful for you.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't think there's anything that can top the actual experience factor. And I think to be able to have that occur while you're in high school, a lot of college students have that happen where they go out and they do,
Yeah.
whether it's internships or what have you. But to be able to do it at the high school level, I think that's awesome. And we're really glad to hear how it's helped you, Sydney, in what you're attempting to do with your career.
Well, I talked to some of the people at college about when I can start an internship, because I want to start right away, but they don't let you do internships till junior year. So as I was saying that, I looked a little confused because I was like, I already started. What are you talking about? And so being able to even do it my junior and senior year, and then even though I have to wait now to do it again, having that experience beforehand will really help me when I move on to it again, which again, not a lot of people get to do. So I think that having this chance is just something a lot of people should be able to take, and I'm just lucky to do it.
Yeah.
I think as an organization, one of the things we do a lot of is internships. So this was new for us to go to the high school level, but we do lots of college level internships, both undergrad and graduate studies. So my guess is we could see you again in the summer internship.
I would love
You
that.
have my number.
That's what it's all about.
I would love that.
And on that note, as I told you, time would go fast. So I want to thank my guests, Jennifer Conrad, Stacy Remillard, and Sydney Bergeron, for sharing their insights on the Pathways to Human Services Job Shadow Program between the BFA Northwest Technical Center and NCSS. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about all of our NCSS programs and services by visiting ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You.